Welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes from 1970 onwards. I'm your host, Mike Karen, and with me is my co-host,
Chad Campbell.
Today, we are taking a look back at the films we've covered from the first decade of our focus, in the 1970s. We're going to be taking you through the films that we've covered from 1970 to 1979, and we'll be going over some stats, our favorites from our categories, and adjust the scale where necessary. So start off the discussion, Chad, just how are you feeling about things? How have you been enjoying the process so far?
Well, I'll tell you, there are mixed emotions. I'm having a great time doing it, but wow, some of these films that we watch, it's unsettling.
Oh, ning, 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 ning. That is our 1,000th use of unsettling. That's one thing I was going to do. I was going to go through all the transcripts and look for how many times we say unsettled.
Yeah. Or I know the one I used a lot, at least on two of them, was laughably bad. It is laughably bad. And I remember hearing it again and I was like, oh, fuck, Chad. And then the fourth time, good God, find another phrase. Have shirts that say Screams and Streams, laughably bad.
Unsettling.
Quotes, unsettling.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
No one else would be in on it but us. But
no. Is your podcast laughably bad? No, it is good. It's just, that's what I say all the time. It's been a lot of fun. I love the fact that we found movies that I had no idea were really out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Like going through the Rotten Tomatoes grading has really exposed me to a lot of different horror movies, or what they thought were horror movies in the 70s. As we talked about, Bird with the Crystal Plumage was more of a detective thriller than it was a horror movie.
Right.
And so just watching these and being exposed to, you know, different filmmakers and different things, I actually really have been enjoying it. I mean, there's some times where I'm watching it the night before because life gets in the way and then you're trying to put your information together. But I really do enjoy watching these films and kind of talking with you about them. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many movies out of the 25 that we've done.
It's crazy. We've already done 25 movies. 25
movies, 29 episodes. And I did the math, over 22 hours of coverage so far.
Wow.
But you're right. Like, I never would have gotten into Giallo. I wouldn't have known who Fulci or Argento were, right? I was never exposed to the Giallo movement. Corpse Grinders was a movie that I had a friend reach out and be like, oh, I'm so happy you're doing that. And I had no idea what it was. So yeah, like it's been an adventure looking at these. Yes, some of them have been tough. If you go back and listen to the episodes, there's a number of times where Chad and I both talk about having like falling asleep while watching.
Yeah.
Or there's one, I think it was Deep Red, where I was doing dishes and cleaning my kitchen.
Oh, there's times I'm folding laundry. I'm leaving the room. I'm coming back. And I got to rewind that. I don't really know what happened there.
Yeah. But I definitely don't regret it. It's been fun. I'm glad that we settled on horror movies for our topic because it's just been, super engaging, super fun.
Yeah, no,
exciting.
I totally agree. It's been a fun project. It's funny to think that it's been 25 films that we've done.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really feel like that. But when I go back and I look at some of these, it seems like so long ago that we started doing And Soon the Darkness.
Yeah. Well, I think it was almost a year ago to the month that we went and sat down and figured out what are we going to do.
Right.
And then we started recording, I think, April, May. And then publishing in September. Yeah. But we first sat down to record in May of 2023.
Time flies, eh? It's been fun. And it's interesting because a lot of the times I'd say, I don't know if we're really, especially with the early ones, if we really agree with Rotten Tomatoes on their grading system. Later on, I'd say we kind of get a little closer.
Right.
I mean, for instance, again, with the Bird with the Crystal Plumage, it got 85%.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have rated it at that.
No, right. Yeah. The critics seemed to like it was a darling of the critics, but not for the mass audience consumption. Yeah. We placed that one at 6. So
yeah. And it's hard because we're watching it now, right? And not when it came out. So when it came out, it was probably groundbreaking and amazing. And everybody was, falling over themselves watching it. But right now it's meh.
Yeah.
Especially when you have things like Saw, where person's cutting off their foot and all that gore stuff, and they barely show blood in these ones. So yeah, it's been a cool experience for sure.
And I just want to say that I've been the statistics side of it, and Chad probably gets tired of my text messages, because way back at the beginning, I'm like, we've had 20, we've had 50, we've had, I keep texting these like screenshots of our milestones, but it's been awesome to watch the engagement and the growth. And just last week we had 50 listens in 1 week, which to a established podcast is nothing. But for me, the fact that we have these people coming back all the time has just been so nice.
Oh, it's been awesome that we're able to keep people engaged, and there's a group that are listening to us. So when we started it, we just thought we're just going to talk.
And like five of our friends might listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it's been interesting to see how it grows. And thank you everybody who has downloaded and has been guests on our show.
Yeah.
We've had TJ and Sam and Mark. And so thank you so much for joining us and helping us critique these movies. It's been a lot of fun.
I just wanted to share, because this is, I didn't notice this until I think it was today or yesterday. Our number 2 city now is Cairo. So it was Calgary and then Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Really?
Yeah. And then Cairo's been creeping up. So,
well, welcome Council Bluffs, Iowa and Cairo. And of course, Calgary.
And of course, Calgary. Yeah. And there are, and other cities where people listen, but it's just been interesting watching the cities kind of grow from there. Like the UK is still our 4th country. Germany is growing at number 5 on the list of countries that we're being listened to in.
Wow.
Let's get into the purpose of why we're here. We're going to be going through just some statistics and our categories and a few other little tidbits to reflect on the years of films that we've been seeing. And to start off, we're going to look at the 2 films that we did in the 1970s. So our first one was The Bird with Crystal Plumage. As Chad said earlier, got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Looking back, having not seen it for almost a year, what is your takeaway on that movie?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing that I remember from that movie is the initial killing in the doorway.
Attempted murder.
Yes, where he's kind of locked in between that area.
Mm-hmm.
And really the Scooby-Doo chase scene in the bus parking lot.
Right, yeah.
And for some reason, those are the things that really stuck out for me in that film. Everything else just seemed, it just didn't really stand out for me. But those are the things I took away from that film the most.
Yeah, when I was going back through my notes, it was definitely the scene where he's in like the foyer or whatever, the entryway of the art gallery with that stark white light versus the night outside.
Yeah.
That one, stuck with me. And then something I'm going to be bringing up later, but it's the scene with the cat eating guy whose name I can't remember, but it's in my notes, but we'll get there. The bus station, like I completely forgot about that.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I had forgotten about that too. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Our bad film from 1970 was And Soon the Darkness. It got 29%.
Girls on a Bike.
Girls on a Bike. My takeaways, going back through the notes, was blondes have more fun. And they were riding slow.
Oh, man. Just painfully slow. And then there's that one point where she just sits in the ditch and hangs out, and they go to the town, and the town's, weird towards them. And it's a travel movie that goes wrong, but it's not very good.
No.
29% on the Rotten Tomatoes. And I believe it's marked pretty fairly
well. I actually did a bit of homework and I watched the Amber Heard remake.
Oh God.
Yeah.
There's an Amber Heard. I didn't even know this.
You mentioned it while we were recording as part of your research.
No way. Did I? So see, I forgot that.
And it was not better. There was a few things that they did at like making it seem like a more plausible travel film, and like these girls on a bike ride and sort of in a unknown country and at risk and threatened by the locals.
Right.
That one was a 17% from the critics and a 16% audience score.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it was worse, according to the critics. And yeah, I wouldn't revisit either of them or recommend either of them.
No, they're just a tough watch. Answer in the Darkness I do remember was so slow.
Yeah.
It just plodded along. And I remember just being, all right, let's get to it already.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And it was, just not a fun watch.
No.
It was fun to bash it,
Yeah.
but just not a fun watch. I feel bad for these actors that get into this and they're, oh, my big break and stuff. And it's just horrible.
Yeah. So reflecting back, I just wanted to look back and go through some stats and look at some data. In 25 films, we had a total of 254 kills on screen or implied or in flashback. The most kills, Carrie takes the cake with 74 deaths in the film.
Scream Blackula Scream's pretty large with 21 too, though.
I was thinking about that. And it was like, yeah, there's like the pimps and there's a few like the party goers that get it. But it's at the end when the police do the raid and they're just staking zombies left and right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they all get killed. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at that. I'm like, how is it that high? I put a couple in honorable mentions. The Swarm only had 10. And I was like, do we go with this? Because there's a scene where the nuclear power plant blows up. And there's the report that says 3,500 people died. So technically it is the most deaths. But I was like, that really skews the body count.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anybody's going to beat that.
I also put the amusement park down because it had 4. And do you remember people dying in the amusement park? And I had to really think on this one.
Not even once.
No. And it's
Was it the guy?
No. Well, Maisel might die. We don't know because he's in the white room. He goes out into the park and then he comes back in the room all disheveled and beaten up. But it's little things where in the background, it's old people dying. Like when he rides the roller coaster and the train, he gets off. And while he's getting off, there's like pallbearers like taking a casket out from where this woman was. And the husband that's sitting beside her is walking beside the casket.
Oh, see, I totally missed that.
Oh, me, like until I sat back and like started doing research for this, I was like, totally missed that. And then I had to rethink. And so there's other background deaths of old people.
Right.
Yeah. Doesn't make it a good movie though.
No, that I think, I don't know if we want to jump in on this now.
Sure.
But I think that was by far, like we've watched a lot of shit in these 25 episodes, but that was probably my least favorite film out of all of them.
Yeah.
I hated that the most. It was so hard to watch and dull and stupid. Oh, I hated it.
And I was listening back to the episode and I remembered that I gave you multiple opportunities to pull the cord on it. Because I had texted you several times. We need a new movie. Nope, we're doing it.
No, we got to do it. We said we'll do the bad ones, or the good ones. We said we'd follow Rotten Tomatoes. We have to do it. We have to do it. And oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Actually, after watching that one, and then when we got into Martin, after I watched Martin, which was better, that's when I started to think, and I've seen Dawn of the Dead and I've seen Night of the Living Dead and those things. But after watching those two and then comparing them to the other ones, that's when I started to really realize that maybe I'm not a Romero fan.
Yeah.
And maybe I've been just kind of drinking the Kool-Aid that everybody, oh, he's the godfather of zombies and he's the greatest thing ever. But when you go back and watch Dawn of the Dead, it's not a fantastic film.
No.
Like, it's not well acted. The makeup on it is poorly done. The zombies are laughably bad.
Were you unsettled by the poor quality? I was
unsettled by the zombies. Anyways, I think I started to realize because of this that I'm just not really that big a fan of his. A lot of his films I'm just not enjoying. Mm-hmm. And we've covered 2 of them. And then I've seen 2 on my own. But yeah. It's just, yeah. Yeah,
no, I agree. All right. We're going to go into our 1971 films. Lizard in a Woman's Skin, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I just remember the bad animated swan and the dogs in the asylum. Those are the 2 sort of takeaways that stick in my brain from that one.
Yeah, I'd have to say I don't remember a whole heck of a lot of that film.
Oh, that and the like softcore Italian porn that starts the film.
Yeah. I do remember turning that on and starting to watch it, and it was earlier, and my kids were still running around upstairs. and it got going, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can play this. And then I think it was Jude, that's my son, started running down the stairs, and I was like, nope, I'm going to stop that, turn that off for a bit. I'll watch this later.
Like a teenager on the internet in the early days.
It really was just like, what do you want down here? I'd say that's the only thing I really remember about that film. I know I didn't enjoy it that much. I know it was okay by those other films that we did, but it wasn't, nothing really stood out for me in that one. However, Corpse Grinder.
The bad one from the year, 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. And I remember we differed on this because I went in there thinking that I was going to critique it. And you went in there thinking I'm just going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And you liked it a lot better than I did. But then when I look back at it and I start to reflect on it and I start to think about just the ridiculousness of some of the scenes and the set. I have to say that if you're looking for a good time, you could probably watch Corpse Grinder.
I still remember the first scene where it's like, it's cats that attack. So you're picturing vicious, feral. Oh, no, it's just that little house cat scratching at the door. Yeah. And then it goes right for the jugular.
And it just jumps up. And it was like watching, I don't know if our listeners have ever seen Naked Gun, but it was like when they throw a pillow at Leslie Nielsen's face and he's struggling throughout the living room. He just can't wrestle this pillow off his face and all he is holding it. But you can tell that they are holding the cat and they're flopping around in this stuffed cat. It's so funny. And the sets look like they were made from, not that there's anything wrong with anybody in high school who makes sets, but they look like they were just thrown together. Well,
you did call it a university film project. You said it's not high school, but it's university.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah. It's a little larger than high school. But the scene I think I loved the most, other than the cat attacking, is when he takes the gun out of his suit. He puts it down and then there's another gun and then he pulls out he says, give me the gun.
Yeah, Landau takes it from Caleb.
He takes it and he puts it down and then he pulls the gun out of his jacket and he says, now. Yeah.
I was looking back at my notes and that was my back it up scene. I put like the acting between Landau and Caleb. Fantastic.
Oh, it was so good. The whole premise of the film, the fact that they're trying to make millions of dollars by grinding up people's bodies and putting it into cat food is just ridiculous. We're going to make millions off cat food?
All right. So the next thing I wanted to look at was sort of our most prolific killers. And so based on the previous body count stat, it's no surprise that Carrie White from Carrie has 72 victims.
Right.
Prince Mamawalde or Blackula had 12 out of the 21. So the other 9 were vampires that got staked later. Yeah. And then amazingly, it drops down to 7. So I added a few for like honorable mentions. Michael Myers had 7 victims. And then Wilfred Butler from Silent Night, Bloody Night had 7.
He had 7 victims?
So I had to think about that. And there's like in the flashbacks, I guess, at the asylum, there's some killings.
Yeah.
And then when he comes back to the town, I guess there's there's several victims.
A few more he kills when he comes back to the town.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, Wilfred Butler, who the hell? I had to even be like, who the heck even was that? Herbert Flayer, Dr. Death in Madhouse had 7 victims.
Right. I could see that because he was.
Yeah, there's quite
there's quite a few in there. Yeah.
A lot of black gloves being put on to kill in that one.
Right. In every scene.
Every scene, in case you didn't know what was happening. And then Monica Ranieri, right out the gate with our first movie, 7 victims in The Bird with Crystal Plumage.
There were 7 victims in that?
Not on screen. So this is where, but do you remember the movie starts with like the camera following the woman in the crowd and taking pictures, and that's a victim.
Oh.
And then we have the woman from the art gallery. We have the woman home alone in her negligee, the woman in the elevator.
Right.
And
I remember the woman at home alone in the negligee was quite violent, that one. I do remember.
Yeah, that in the elevator were like 2 of our sort of more gratuitous moments from that film.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, she had 7 victims overall in that film.
Huh.
Yeah, I know.
It's funny when you look back on it because while we watched it the first time, I don't think I ever registered 7 victims in that film.
Yeah, we didn't see all of the murders, but there were, I guess, implied. Yeah. Okay. And then we're now looking at our 1972 films. So the good from that year was Tales from the Crypt at 90%. And that one, it's hard to think of like what's the standout or the takeaway. Like it's 5 different stories.
Right.
For me, it's still the Peter Cushing, like where he's the widower being harassed by his neighbors. That's my takeaway from it.
Oh man, I hated those neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Christmas one,
Oh,
I remember pretty
the
vividly.
Joan Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scraping paint out of a carpet, and that's how you clean it up somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was listening back to the episode and you were just you felt so sorry for the victim in that one. Like he's just happy. He's written the card for his wife to a loving wife, and then boom, down he goes.
Yeah. That poor guy.
Yeah.
Now you brought it all back.
Yeah.
But it was still good. Like for that time,
Yeah.
I thought Tales from the Crypt I liked the Tales from the Crypt. I used to like the little mini series, even though it was kind of poorly acted and stuff. I watched it. And
It was HBO of the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, the movie with Billy Zane, I wasn't a huge fan of. But
So there's I wouldn't say an Easter egg, but I remember Mark mentioned this in a text to me when we were talking about The Exorcist, and I never got a chance to see the episode, but William Friedkin, the director of Exorcist, directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt, and he was going to bring it up in the episode. I'm like, really? Is it worth talking about? He's like, oh no. Then he made a game day decision and didn't bring it up because it was just incongruous with the rest of the conversation.
oh gee.
The bad from 72 was Dracula AD 1972. And I still love the fact that the year's in the title, like a hip hop song.
Yeah, Dracula AD
1972. Pow, pow, pow. 27% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, not one of Christopher Lee's best films.
No,
unfortunately. But he's been in over 300 and some films.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some stinkers in there somewhere. And this was one.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, I just remember the concert scene at the beginning, and even going through my notes, it was all about music. There's the party with the band playing, and then the music during the Black Mass in the crypt. Right. It's just like, it was a lot about music. That was my takeaway from that one. And then the bad puns on the, she'll be here tomorrow, a little drained, but she'll be here. Come in for a bite. Like, but I think it does have, and I didn't write this down for my notes for a later category, but the death by running water, where it's just the Alucard's in his bathroom and he pulls the curtain.
Yeah.
And then he falls into his tub and turns on the water and the shower. Because we learned that part of the mythology of Dracula is that he can be killed by running water, which is just out of a tap.
By drowning. Oh my God. Some of these, when I go through them and looking back, you watch them, you write notes about them, and then you're just, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that film doesn't need to stay with me. Right. Yep. And that is one of them. Mm-hmm. Like I remember little snippets of it, but I can't say as anything has stuck with me or really resonated with me.
Yeah.
While we're doing these other films, like I can't, like I know I've written notes about it, and as I talk, I'm looking for them, but it's like I don't really care.
I mean, the wagon wheel to Dracula's chest at the beginning.
Oh God,
great at the time, but in retrospect, it just forgettable.
And I don't know, like Christopher Lee, I love his voice and I love his, I've seen him in a few things. And the things I've seen him in have obviously been, pretty good.
Yeah.
But this was just rough.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to linger on that one. 1972, the other film from that year came later, but it was our Christmas episode. And I think that I chose this one incorrectly.
Yeah, this was a Mike pick.
Yeah, because Chad and I were texting like, we got to do a Christmas episode. What should we do? And I believe that you texted me Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
And then I started looking for that movie to see, could we find it? Was it available? And then Silent Night, Bloody Night popped up, like autofilled on Google. I'm like, oh, that must be the one that Chad meant. So I pulled that one for us.
Yes.
And 30% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. And
but zero. No critic score. Well, a 0 or unrated. Not enough reviews to even gain it a critic score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. That one was a boat anchor. And I remember just being so disappointed that was our Christmas episode.
I'll do better for the 1980s
There's gotta
Christmas
be
or something.
something. And then I watched this thing and I was like, oh no. The first 10 minutes are narrated. And I remember sitting there. I texted Mike at the time. Is there no talking in this film? Like,
My one-liner from that film was just the first line spoken because it was the first time someone spoke. No other takeaway lines from the rest of the movie. I was just so happy to hear dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. And the guy, the grease ball that's cheating on his wife. And then he goes to, doesn't he go to get smokes?
He says, I left my cigarettes in the car, and then he comes back with her Christmas present.
Right.
And then says, but you can't open it till our Christmas morning or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Anyways, it's not worth seeking out. It's not even fun.
No.
It's just bad. And the acting is horrible. That city council scene is awful.
With the Gus Fring ringing of a bell.
Oh. It's just like boiling up anger inside me as we speak about these films.
Think about all the birds in the woman's house.
Oh. She must have had like 100 in there. It was just
The
ridiculous.
smell. I just remember talking about the smell. Now we're going to move on to talk about the weapons that have been used. And the most prolific weapon, or the weapon most used, was a knife. It appeared in 7 of our films. And then
Oh yeah.
for most unique, I mean, if you have something other than what I've written down, but I've got the meat grinder.
No, I'd say that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
That you're grinding people up to make them into cat food,
Yeah.
I think. Other than bees, but I don't know.
Bees. Yeah.
It's the bees. 1,000,000 bees. Yeah, I know. I think the meat grinder's pretty good.
I do like, I was looking up The Exorcist, and one of the deaths is by defenestration, which is one of my favorite words, which means to be thrown from a window. All right, that's Karaz. And then the most implausible, I put the necklace in the elevator from Deep Red.
That was a kick-ass scene, though.
Great scene. Yeah, it comes up when we're going through our best of the categories, but
Right.
yeah, for implausible weapon, either the wagon wheel from Dracula AD or the chain cutting
the
the neck.
necklace that could not be broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly slicing through the neck.
What a great, way to kill somebody.
Yeah.
But just so unbelievable. Just, there's just no way.
Yeah.
Like, how thick would that chain have to be in order to do that?
But it was so fun to watch.
I know. It was crazy good. There are different kinds of movie watchers. There are movie watchers that really look for realism in their films. And then it's a movie. Like, it doesn't matter. I think I'm somewhere in between. I'm willing to forgive some things as long as the story is well done.
Yeah.
And the acting is well done. But if those things aren't together, it takes me out of the film, and I'm, this is dumb. This is dumb. And in that particular film, I thought the story was okay, and the acting was good enough that I was still engaged. And then when that scene happened, I remember being like, oh, yuck.
I think it was just, like, the effect wasn't great, but it was just such a wild death that I'm like, I'm willing to forgive the kind of bad effects.
And slow.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just, you saw the chain just sink into her neck and her just being like, yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was good.
So good. Our 1973 films, we've already talked about the pain of the top one.
Yes.
The Amusement Park scored 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which did not deserve that rating.
Not at all. I don't know if we want to dwell on that more than we already have.
No, what did we rate it? 1?
Yes.
I agree with that.
Actually, I meant to bring that up with Silent Night, Bloody Night. We gave it a 0, but there's no 0 on our scale. So we had to bump that up to a 1.
So we had to bump it up to a 1.
And I think Amusement Park, if we had a 0, would have been down there as well.
I believe so, yeah.
And then Scream Blackula Scream, 29% Rotten Tomato score. And I was higher than that.
Yeah.
Just for the fun of it.
I really liked the costumes in it. I remember talking about that guy's suit and just being like, oh man, I want that suit. And the way they talk is like so, airplane, jive, turkey. I don't know. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable enough.
I was flipping through my notes on that one, and the first thing I wrote down was line, jive ass bitch.
I also loved whenever he turned into Blackula that he got these massive sideburns that they just showed up.
Well, the men and the women alike got hairy.
Yes. It's like, all right, so these guys just get hairy. I remember him turning into a bat was pretty silly.
Yeah, and the bat flying around. Yeah,
turned into a cartoon.
I also had the note, and it's in the episode as well, where they go into the house. There's no proof that they're dealing with vampires. And the male, like, I don't know, savior, whatever, hero, drives a stake through a victim with no proof it's a vampire. Just turns around, get him!
Just walks in, this person sleeping, eh? You imagine just some guy that's hungover. Jesus, what?
And then in 73, we had our other guest episode, and this was with author Mark Watson. He came in for The Exorcist, and that rated 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. We picked that one because when I kept telling people like, oh, we're doing a podcast about horror movies, we're going to be starting the 1970s. I think every follow-up statement was always like, well, you're doing The Exorcist, right? You're doing The Exorcist, right?
Right.
And I was like, well, you know, our approach is the best and the worst. And that one didn't score well. And then I was just like, you know, fixing my glass. Well, you know, all that Rotten Tomatoes didn't score very well. And so I was like, yeah, we got to rectify that. And I think that's where the catalyst of guest episodes came in, was like, we need to start pulling in these didn't rate into our scale, but have to be talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about that one at length. I don't think there's much more to say about The Exorcist. I mean, it is an amazing film, has been parodied over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's just iconic.
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day with my family, and I remember watching it when I was a kid, and I watched it way too early for when I should have, and it freaked me out. It just really, really freaked me out. And that's why Ouija boards became, you know, a thing.
Yeah.
Because Howdy was... oh, let's go talk to the demon. It's funny how some people are really drawn to that, and some people are just super afraid and won't touch it.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like there's that mix of people where it's just, oh yeah, well, we got to give it a try. Mm-hmm. And then there's others that are like, get that out of the house.
I didn't identify anything when I put down this category for our list of what we were going to do, because I didn't know what you're going to pull out of your bag for it. But best death.
Best death out of all of them. It's hard because, okay, so if I go through the films we have done, because I look at Squirm.
The worm face.
And worm face is there. And these worms just build up and essentially drown people. There's just so many of them. So that one's pretty awesome. Jaws is always good, where that girl gets whipped around. That beginning death scene, I think, is unbelievably good.
I think so too. Despite TJ criticizing the fact that that's not how sharks kill.
Yeah, but who gives a shit?
It was so good.
It was good. And the way and I know I said this in the episode, the way she acts while she's getting killed is haunting.
Yeah.
It's really, really well done. She's crying and pleading for mercy, and this thing is just eating her.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that one is probably, as far as violence and scariness and holding me, probably that one. As far as being silly, I would say Squirm or Carrie when Buddy gets killed by the bucket that falls off the...
I love you said that, because I went through and like did a few like gruesome this one, cool was this one, shocking was this one, and I put like lamest, bucket to the head.
Yes.
Tommy and Carrie.
Yes, for sure. That is the lamest death.
Yeah.
Boonk. Another cool one, and actually is the first death but she doesn't actually die, but the first one in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where he opens the door, grabs...
It's the guy.
Oh, it's the guy. Yeah, sorry, because he walks in.
Yeah, he dies there.
Him, and then kills him. That one's freaky.
Yeah, that was on my list too. I put that one for shocking. It just when you haven't seen Leatherface yet, and I couldn't like I remember having images of it from when I first watched it, and then rewatching it as an adult, and like, oh, so many of like these things from my childhood fear came up.
Yeah.
just the way he trundles in, bonks him, the tremor on the ground, the second hit. And then
with the meat or the mallet, right?
And the behind the scenes on it too, where it's like he blistered his head when he hit him, slammed his head into the wall.
Those poor people just lived through hell to make that film.
Yeah.
It was hot. It stank. They got hurt. Who was it got paid with a joint?
John Larroquette.
Yes.
John Larroquette got paid with the joint for doing the voiceover at the beginning. Yeah.
And the wheelchair guy, I'm sorry, he's annoying.
Franklin.
Yeah. And you want him.
He's coming up later.
Well, at least I know his name now, so I don't have to call him wheelchair guy anymore.
A few of the other ones that I had for gruesome, I put the boiling water in deep red when Rigetti gets killed. And again, it's one of those like the back or the behind the scenes add to it where it was Argento putting the actress into the water and she was screaming because she was actually drowning or got water down the pipe. And he's just like, this is a great take. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's actually trying to fight him off and he's just keep putting her down there. And it's,
well, she's such a good actor. The cool effect was the falling from the window in Bird with Crystal Plumage where they actually dropped the camera down. The elevator chain decap, we talked about that one. So those were my tops. I would say, or the elevator in Bird with Crystal Plumage as well was a good one.
Yeah.
Just for the violence of it in that film.
That one was good. I think I liked the
woman in her apartment.
As far as violence goes, I think that one was better. Meat grinder, obviously cats attacking you and killing you is hilarious.
I think the most uncomfortable one to watch would be the first death in Martin in the train car.
That one was super disturbing.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, as much as I said I don't like Romero, and I know we talked about this when we talked about Martin, but that scene was so disturbing.
Yeah.
Where he attacks her, he drugs her, and she's, what are you doing? And it just
why do you want me to go to sleep? Like that line.
It's so real.
Yeah.
Like the way they're flopping around. One of the things I liked about it is they didn't make Martin overpowering.
Right.
Right. He fought with these people every inch of the way until they went to sleep and then he did his stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But so many times you see a horror movie where the person just overpowers and just hucks them around and the person's knocked out and it's over. For instance, Halloween, Michael Myers is just a beast.
Yeah.
He just comes in and he can overpower anyone, which they must have had a weight room in the insane asylum. They taught him to drive. They gave him weights and then he and then he went out killing people.
So it's the doctor's fault.
Why is this guy so strong?
I don't see what the problem is.
I mean, that one where he kills the teenager up and holds him up and then looks at him. That one, I like that.
Yeah.
That one as well. But yeah, no, you're right. Martin's first kill scene is pretty yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're now going to look at the films from 1974. The best one of that year, it's kind of low, but it was 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, or Breakfast at the Manchester Morgue, or Don't Profane the Sleep of the Dead, or Don't Profane the Dead. This one had 16 titles or something?
So many titles for one film. I didn't mind it, though. I thought it was good.
I think 86% is a valid score.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. There were definitely some shocking scenes and a few scenes that still stick with me.
Yeah.
The pulling out of the guts or the uterus of the nurse at the end.
Yeah. It's pretty gross. I like the fact that it was done by the pesticides, the sonar.
The giant agriculture truck.
Just in the middle of a field and it's bringing up all these zombies. Get the hell out of here. At the end, he's trying to sabotage the truck. And it was good. Yeah. I say for a zombie film, it was as good as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that the zombies win, right? Yeah. Like there's the bit at the end, like we talked about in the episode where like within a couple minutes, both of your protagonists are dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell is this? And then the cop gets it and it's like, yeah, death to the fascists.
I remember them in the cellar trying to crawl out of that cellar.
Yeah.
And the zombie trying to get at them through there. I thought that was good. Neat. Yeah. The way they shot that was kind of cool. Yeah. There are definitely moments in that film that still resonate and were fun.
Yeah.
Right. As far as a zombie film goes.
Yeah.
And then we go into our next one.
The bad one for that year, Madhouse with Vincent Price, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I would even say that's too high.
Yes. Vincent Price and Peter Cushing, right?
And Peter Cushing, yeah.
I think you nailed this one on the head when you said it was a black and white movie that was put into color.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to do it when it was put into color.
Yeah.
Right?
The sets, the makeup, everything played like an old film. Yeah.
I also didn't like all the, let's watch this film about how he did it. Oh, let's watch this.
Yeah.
We're celebrating your career. And the guy's just a jerk.
Yeah.
He's hard to like. I didn't want him
to succeed.
I didn't want him to be proven wrong or innocent. I didn't care what happened to him. I just wanted him gone, really. Yeah. Like, he just wasn't fun to watch.
No, they set him up. Like you said, he's not a nice guy. They set him up to be hated right out the gate, where he finds out his fiance has done pornography in adult films.
Oh, and he's just horrible to her.
Yeah. And it's like, I get it. Yes, she's a pornographer. There's some judgment there from some people, but just, he's so vicious to her, and he's so vicious to every woman in that film.
Well, and that one that's trying to, she comes out, she tries to get in his film. She's just trying to get in his film, and he's just mean to her. And then he gets on set, and there are moments where he's not an ass, but few and far between.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, he's just a jerk. Peter Cushing isn't good.
No, misused in that film, if anything, but.
Yeah. I don't want to speak ill of the dead because both of them have passed, but sorry. It just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did not enjoy either of them in that.
Yeah.
And in 1974, we saw another guest film, just because this was another one that just, how can you do the 70s without mentioning it? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this one was actually 89%. It was the best of the year. But because we had a friend who really wanted to be the guest, Sam Schreiner joined us. And that's why Let Sleeping Corpses Lie was our best of.
Went with Sam. And I'm glad it did. She's hilarious. Thank you so much for joining us for those.
The fact that she would notebook her boyfriends with it was my takeaway from the film and the episode. I saw it when I was 7. It stayed with me for a long time. Sam mentioning that just made it much more of a pleasurable film.
And there's not much else you could say about Texas Chainsaw. We kind of said a little bit about it. The actors went through hell.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fun movie to make for them, but it really has gone through the ages, has spawned multiple sequels and spin-offs, and is just really an iconic film for horror.
Yeah. And I got to say, and I said it on the episode, like, this was 1974. So we'd done, this was our 5th year of looking at films. And this one was the first one where, at least I felt, timeless. Like that one holds up. Watching it in 2023, it could have been made in 2023.
You know what I really like about it is it's filmed like a documentary or like a true story. And it's so dirty and raw. Yeah. It just looks like a dirty film.
Yeah. Like the guerrilla filmmaking on that one brings so much to it.
The van, the gas station, the set of the old house that's dilapidated and run down. And then when they get in there and there's chicken feathers and bones everywhere. And even the people that are supposed to be helping you are dirty and mean. And it's just such a gritty film. And it's one of my favorites.
Yep. Okay, now we're going to look at best killer or villain from the decade. I wrote down 3, 2 legitimate, 1 more as a joke, but I had Jaws.
Okay.
And I know it's the first name I wrote down because it's the first one that popped in my mind, but it's the Jaws of the first 2/3 of that film. The stalking, suspenseful shark.
Yeah, you and TJ both said it turned into a monster movie in the last bit of the film.
Yeah,
right.
But it was still like relentless, overpowering. It was this unstoppable force, right? We have that line from Alien where it's like the perfect machine. It's like Jaws was the perfect machine.
Right.
So that was my first one.
I have, I think Leatherface.
Yeah.
I think Leatherface is probably one of my favorites. The reason I don't pick Jaws is because of the nasty reputation it gave sharks afterwards.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that he was super creepy, and the way they shot around the fact that Bruce wouldn't work. Yeah. And made it point of view filming and, worked around all the problems that they had was fantastic. And it made a super creepy film. But it also painted sharks in such a negative light that I have a hard time saying yay to that, even though I love the film. I'm conflicted. It's good, but I'm going to go with Leatherface as my favorite. So creepy, so big, this lumbering
6'7" in the shoes they put him in. Like he filled all the space.
When he comes through that sliding door and grabs that first victim, the comparison between their height and their size is just, whoa.
Because he looks like a child, but up to that point in the film, like he's the biggest guy out the van.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just so creepy and crazy. And then when he's sitting at the table and he's child.
Yeah. And he's got his like fancy mask on for guests. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. He's got to be my number one, I think.
I just want to go back to Jaws for a second, just because it's weird. I don't know what's going on in my life, but there's been like 2 other references to like sharks. One was proving that sort of misappropriation of their violence or misrepresentation of their violence. And it was a clip on this British show QI. And they're like, what's the scariest part of this clip? And it's a great white swimming towards the camera and opening its mouth. And it's playing the theme from Jaws. Right. And it's like, what's the scariest moment? And someone hits their buzzer and says the teeth. And that's not the right answer. And they're talking about it. I was like, well, I don't know. And it's like, well, it's the music. Cause like, na, na. So then they play the clip 2 more times. And in one, they play like Spring from the Four Seasons, from Vivaldi's Four Seasons.
Oh,
It's like, da, na, 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 na. And it's just a shark like slowly swimming up and like, yay.
He's taking mushrooms and he's,
So the host was talking about like how, sharks have gotten this horrible reputation, and it's like 6 people a year die from great whites.
Yeah.
And whereas like thousands die from toilet seats or something like that. It gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then Louise and I were watching this like Netflix children's animated show.
Yeah.
And it became bothersome to me because I was like hyper aware of this shark stigma. Yeah. And these animals escaping the zoo to go out into the Australian outback, and they meet a great white shark. And it's like, oh my God, but you're a man-eater. It's like, yeah, I kind of am. And like they played to that whole sharks are killers.
Yeah.
I was just like, no.
Well, even in Finding Nemo, they do
gross.
I won't eat meat and blah, blah, blah. And then they want to eat him, right? He gets that little sniff of blood. He's, oh, that's good. And then his eyes go black frenzy. And then he becomes crazy with it, right?
Yeah.
So they make sharks out to be these bloodthirsty creatures. And yeah, people, I mean, when we talked about Jaws, we talked about, the Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right. And when that ship went down, it was nasty. Like those sharks went around and.
Yeah. But it was an easy and available source of food.
Exactly. They're not hunting you down. If you're going for a swim, they're not.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a person. I'm going to ignore all this other stuff. And I'm going to get that guy because he looks ripe. Everything you said is true. I just can't get behind it because of that. So, sorry.
Fair enough. That's okay. You may or may not get behind this next one. I also really like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, okay.
Just because I like that idea of horrible people being punished in the end.
Right.
Like, it's not like he was on screen a lot. He didn't instill terror. But looking back at like villains or killers, I liked his motivation. I liked what he was doing. He took these 5 people who were just shitheads, just terrible. And it's like, you're going to relive what you did, and now you're going to go to hell. And so I liked him. I liked him for that.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Yep.
And then my comedic one was the cats.
Yeah, well, I think you got to go with that. Or I'm going to say
the bees.
Millions of bees. I'm not even going to justify that. I don't even want to acknowledge that movie that much. But I would say my top ones are Texas Chainsaw. So I've got Leatherface. I have the demon in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And then for my laughable one, I'm going to say the Worms and Squirm.
Nice. Yeah. Worms. I was thinking of Worms as well.
Yeah.
They're so slow and low to the ground, and I can't get away.
There's so many of them. It's just, oh my God. It's just so funny. It's so hard to describe the way they film these worms coming in to these buildings, because it just builds, and then they're like, they're already at the stairs. It builds. And
they're coming in from the second floor somehow.
Yeah, and they're spilling in through windows and stuff. They're busting stuff up. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say I agree with all yours, definitely. But those are my 3. The demon, Leatherface, and the Worms.
All right. We're going to go to our 1975 films. This was one of our more divisive or at least for me until I researched it. But the best of that year was 93% given to Deep Red.
Deep Red.
Our second foray into Dario Argento's world.
Right.
Yeah.
With
More
the
extreme.
psychic.
Yeah. With the psychic and the spitting of the water.
Yeah.
The plaza. Here's to the deflowered virgins. Like there's so many things in that movie that just sit with you. Yeah.
And we mentioned that in the podcast. I just didn't understand that. He's like, here's to the deflowered virgins. He talks about rape. Maybe they were raped. Ha 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 ha. It's like, that's not funny. What are you doing?
And on reflection, I still can't figure out why they put that to that character.
Like, is it bad translation or
maybe?
The other thing is obviously, and I mentioned this a lot, and I'm going to stop mentioning it after this. Okay. So I can no longer use actors can't play drunk, but yeah, that guy just seemed, he's way overacting his drunkenness. And then at one point we're supposed to believe he's been drinking all day. And
then refuses the coffee.
And then he's like, no coffee for me. It's like, but he still seems stone cold sober. Obviously, this had a huge impact on me in this film. But anyways, Deep Red. Ah, well, it was all right.
It was good. It was for Argento. I enjoyed it more than Bird with the Crystal Plumage in retrospect. Like this was the one where I came in at a 2 and then researched my way up to the 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was super creepy was the doll that came out of the closet.
Oh, absolutely.
And just kind of walks towards him. And I wonder if that was the inspiration for Jigsaw, because it's freaky as shit.
Yeah.
Like he comes out of there and the way he moves and just comes toward us. Like,
I believe your phrasing was legs all akimbo.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite scene of that film is that thing coming out of there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The worst film of that year, and I only have one scene in my head for this one, but 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was The Devil's Reign.
Good God. That film, William Shatner, so bad.
And all I take away from that one is still Ernest Borgnine transferring into the devil. Just, who has summoned me?
That horn face thing?
It still makes me laugh.
It is hilarious.
I haven't watched it since, and I still laugh about it.
Again, if you could find it on YouTube, look it up because it is hilarious. The fact that he turns into that is laughably bad. It is. The other thing that I remember is the poorly done face melting.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning, you can see his eyes and everything through there. It's poorly done. Again, I remember the coffee. Yeah. I got so mad about the coffee.
Do you want a coffee? Spills the coffee, goes to get her more coffee. She never said she wanted coffee.
So there's that. The book, I remember being confused about the book. They talk about it at first, and it's not till really near the end that you kind of discover all this stuff. They wait so long to reveal anything. And
well, we don't know what the Devil's Reign is until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's bad. The green blood that, like, all of a sudden they're possessed, so they get green blood. I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of shit to that film that's just not good. And I would say avoid it if you can, but if you want to laugh, there are moments that are funny.
But you did it to yourself. We're now going to look at the worst villain. We had some comical ones in our best villain, but these are ones that, not for comic's sake, but for other reasons, just didn't hit right. And Corbus from Devil's Reign.
Yes.
Terrible. Like, it's a cult leader. It's a satanic cult, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know if it's because of the villain in the film or the fact that it was played by the most genuinely nice guy, Ernest Borgnine. He just looks like someone I'd want to sit down and talk to because he just seems so gentle.
He just looks like a fun grandpa or uncle that you want to sit down. Yeah. You want to have him read you a story.
Absolutely. Right? I just want to hear about his life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to go for a beer with him. He's not a guy you think is like Satan.
Yeah. Do you have any worst?
Oh, I'm going to agree with you on that
one.
Actually, I'll take Vincent Price in Madhouse.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Like, the makeup was okay, but yeah, there's only so much makeup can do.
It's funny. He's so bad, and that movie's so bad. I didn't even think of him for this category. And I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Just not good. And we've talked about Madhouse at length. I don't want to make this longer than it has to be. He's just not good. It's just not good.
I had Damien from The Omen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Who cares?
And then the hippies from Lizard in a Woman's Skin. That was my laughable worst villain.
I hated Silent Night, Bloody Night.
Oh, yeah.
So the villain in that.
William Butler.
Yeah, William Butler. And his whole story, by the time it was revealed, I had already shut off. Like, I didn't care.
Yeah.
And his whispering in the phone and his, you're going to pay for this. I didn't like it. So he's my number 2. My laughable one for worst, I would have to say the pimp in Blackula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A man has got to see his face.
I can't see myself. He's like dressed up to go out. He's like
that quote and you jive ass bitch. Those are both his. But you're right. He is a pretty terrible villain. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of our decade in review of the films that we did from 1970 to 1979. Next week, we will release part 2 of our discussion where we'll continue going through our categories. See you next week.